Hey Chris, how you doing this morning?
Hi, Ron. Doing great. How about yourself?
I couldn't complain, man. This is one of my favorite topics. You know me in marketing, love our
Same.
SEO, love our conversions, love to help our
Yes,
clients drive traffic and drive conversions. So why don't you go ahead and introduce today's topic?
absolutely. So, I think one of the most fundamental things for any business is being able to reach their desired audience that has a problem that they can solve. And one of the biggest opportunities out there that continues to be a huge opportunity within just about any niche is organic SEO, and really getting folks to sort of find you for your unique value area. And so today we're going to be talking about how to really execute on delivering that value, helping somebody when they're at the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, and sort of how to convert SEO traffic into actual business and revenue, and looking at some of the CRO that is applicable. So certainly very, very excited about this.
Yeah, totally agreed. So I want to introduce just a couple of things that obviously in sales, I'm the one that gets to talk to the clients. And I want to talk about a few misconceptions that people have and just kind of outline the concept, right? Because I think it's a little bit easier if everybody understands the concept. Because we talk about SEO, I think everybody pretty much knows SEO. We talk
Mhm.
about CRO, and I still have 90% of the clients that I talk to not even know what the acronym CRO stands for. So I want to talk about those and kind of differentiate the difference between them two. So one of the fallacies is that in this, one of the last webinars that Chris and I just did was one called helping B2B companies make the digital transformation, right? And how they would, and one of the things we talked about is how people think like, oh, we've been doing business like this for 100 years. All we have to do is do an online store and it'll be done. And that's our digital transformation. And then they spin up an online store and nobody comes, right? There's this fallacy that just by having an online website, people come, but they don't understand how the crawl bots rank and weight pages. There are over 200 weighting factors when it comes down to everything, right? With all the individual keywords and the links and everything like that. But there are some major high level ranking factors. And one of the ranking factors is the age of the domain. So when you go buy a new URL and you spin up a brand new domain, you don't have any weighting in that one particular criteria area for Google. So that's why you'll find a lot of times clients will go out and they'll start searching for URLs and they'll buy up. You've heard people spending $4, 5, $10,000 buying an old URL. Why do they do that? Well, they're looking for a URL that a company's either sold and then they've discontinued that brand or they've gone out of business and that URL's been around for a while and has some authority, and then they can come in and inherit and take that over, right? So SEO, search engine optimization, I think everybody understands that. I wrote a really nice blog post that really talks about this, the difference between SEO and CRO. And I tell all my clients for every hour of SEO I work, I put an hour of CRO. So what is the difference between SEO, search engine optimization, and conversion rate optimization? I like to talk about it as a block party. Chris and I are going to throw a big block party, right? We live in the neighborhood. And I'm responsible for bringing people to the party, the SEO. Chris is responsible for the conversion rate optimization or throwing the party. So I go out and I start putting up flyers. I go out on all the social media posts. I take out an ad. I send in emails to the HOA. I do everything and I get 1,000 people there. Chris got real busy and he shows up with 1 6-pack and a pizza. We got a problem when 1,000
Right.
people show up and we can't host a good party. Conversely, if I got busy and forgot to pick up the flyers at Kinko's and I didn't post it on Facebook and me and two of my buddies show up and Chris got oingo boingo 6 kegs and 100 pizzas, that's another big failure, right?
Right.
So it's almost like you don't invite people over to your house if you're not ready to host a party, right? You clean the house, you get food, you make sure parking, you park your cars in the garage, whatever you do, right? You're ready for that. That is exactly what we do with your website as well. We're not going to go out and do a bunch of SEO and drive 10,000 people to your website if the website experience, the UI UX is trash or the conversions aren't clear. So a couple of the things that I want to talk about, we'll talk about it later when we get into SEO and conversion rate. I talk about the 50 millisecond rule and the 333 rule. And those are rules that I live and guide by when we start talking about content. So I'm going to turn it over to you first. And I want you to talk about this conversation about what audiences are and personas, because there's a difference between audiences and personas, right? We always have two
Right.
different audiences to write for, but we could have many different personas. So I want you to talk to the audience about what does that even mean, and what do we as business owners have to think about when we've got this conversation where the audiences might be very, very different than the personas, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think in general, what you're talking about here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is in this case, we're saying an audience is a crawler or a search engine versus like someone who's a potential buyer or someone with a problem.
Yep.
And so mechanically, we're doing different things to be able to suit them and what they need. A crawler or a search engine that's coming and indexing your site, they need to understand whether or not the site contains value that is credible, and their way of measuring that credibility to be able to help serve their customers when their customers are searching on their search engine. And so basically, we're part of what's on the shelf for that search engine, and we need to meet the criteria that search engine retail offers. When somebody goes down the kitchen supplies aisle, they need to find your site, and in order for your site to show up, it has to have the right information for that search engine to want to put it on the top shelf.
Right.
And at the eye level of the viewer. And some of the mechanics of that are making sure that, like you said, Ron, the domain age, looking at links to the site, making sure that we're managing the meta information properly on the site. And I won't go into detail. It just, there's a list of specific criteria there. But a lot of times what we see is sort of an imbalance from businesses where they don't focus on both, or they don't focus on both of them enough to sort of maximize the output for their business. So they'll sort of get one really pegged and then mismanage the other. And so the other audience is your actual potential buyers. And there's a lot of nuance to this too, because they go through a life cycle. And, you want to really marry, like if you're getting a lot of organic traffic, you're probably going to find a lot of people in the top and middle of the funnel in addition to the bottom of the funnel. What do I mean? People that are not ready to buy. They're researching, they are just becoming aware of a pain, and they're researching, where they're at to find a solution, or what options they have to find a solution. And ultimately, the output should be that whenever you're working on your site content, you're not just presenting to search engines, but you're also presenting information to potential buyers to show them, hey, there are different options depending on where you are in the life cycle. If you're just becoming aware of a pain, go to this part of our site. We talk about that here. If you're just becoming, aware of some of the solutions and you're considering us as a solution, go here. If you're ready to buy and you need a demo or a trial or to set up a, look at a contract and pricing, go here. And it's as simple as that. And, whenever it comes to e-commerce and purchasing items, a lot of times people go through this process in a compressed time frame, but they need you to be able to speak to that. They need you to be able to offer them some of the different sort of options that they need depending on where they are in the pipeline. So you have to marry these two things together, and mechanically they're different things, right, Ron?
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Matter of fact, there's one way that I like to think about it. I like to think about it as content versus messaging. Content, in my mind, most people think, oh, I need to write content for my buyers. No, I don't. I think I need to write content for Google, right? Google's the biggest crawler, so we'll just say Google. But for all the bots, content is for them. So I'm writing alt tags, ARIA labels, all of the content on the page, the numbers of keywords, the mix of the keywords, the keyword research, all of the content that I'm writing is strictly for the bots. However, when I go in and optimize that content and rewrite the content, the way I design and lay out the page, so design and messaging are for the users that actually visit the page, right? So we can actually go into a couple of those rules if we want to talk about that. So the messaging is now for the buyers when they come. So like Chris said, you've got the top, the middle, and the bottom of the funnel. So how do you handle and have messaging for all of them? So you have to understand the life cycle that Chris talks about and where your buyers are so that you can deal with, what do you do if I go in and I look at a car and I'm just window shopping? If I'm just looking for prices and I'm the sales guy and I come out and talk to them, I don't want to lose them forever. So I want to make sure to get their name. I want to make sure they have my business card. I want to make sure to give them something compelling that would bring them back. Oh, I understand you're just looking for pricing today. Do you want to just go drive a couple of the cars and make sure you know which model so I can get you the correct pricing information? No high pressure sales, but I'm trying to answer their questions. I'm trying to give them what they want today. And that's what the funnel is so important. Now, let's talk about those couple rules real quick. I want to talk about them. There was trying to think what to call her. She was a Harvard professor, published 23 times. She had been in the top 20 businesswomen in the world many times in those really famous lists. Her name was Rosabeth Moss Cantor. She had done a study at one point in time that determined that within 50 milliseconds of visiting a page, a visitor has already given your site a professional score. So when I talk to people and they say design isn't important, it doesn't matter if it's pretty, we just have to have the content on the page, or we just have to have the product on the page, or the price is going to be the most important. That's not necessarily true. I mean, it's like if somebody walked into your house and it was in shambles, it doesn't matter how great the party is going to be. If the house is in shambles, they already think you're a slob, right? It means that concept. So within 50 milliseconds of hitting a page, they've already made up their mind how professional your company is. So you want that first impression to be good. The second rule is the 333 rule. The 333 rule says within 3 seconds, they have to know they're in the right place. So is the banner with the H1 and potentially the H2 subheading important? Yeah, absolutely. Because if I'm looking for HIPAA e-commerce and I come to a page and it's selling Viagra, I'm in the wrong place and I'm going to bounce, right? But if it comes up and says, 12-step checklist for your best HIPAA e-commerce site, within 3 seconds, I'm like, yeah, I'm interested, right? So the 3 of the 333 rule is you got to hit them really good with, the banner area, the title, the subtitle has to let them know that they are in the right place. If they know they're in the right place, the 30 part of the 333 rule, the 30 is they'll give you 30 seconds. So for me, the first 1 and 2 paragraphs is now the hook, right? I have to give them the offer. And there's only 2 offers in marketing. There's a deal offer or there's an informational offer. So within those first 2 paragraphs, I have to write those better than everything else on the page. Hey, if you read this thing today, I'm going to give you the secret sauce for the 12 steps to ensure that your site is the best HIPAA e-commerce site in the world, right? That's my first paragraph. And then they're like, ooh, I'm interested. So the last 3 is I'll give you 3 minutes of research. So you have to make sure then if they're doing the 3 minutes of research within those areas of text, you've got now the conversions, what Chris says, if they're at the bottom of the funnel and they're ready to potentially convert, what to you is a conversion? Is it download a white paper? Is it watch this video? Is it click here to get a free quote? Is it register for a trial today? Or is it buy now and get 30% off today? Is it the offer, right? You've got to be able to do that. So Chris, I want to turn it over to you and let you talk more technically about, because we're really talking about e-commerce here, right? So how do I turn my e-commerce / website, right? It's really a website, isn't it? Yeah. How do I turn that whole thing? I mean, let's take one of our clients, GFS, right? I've been working on their SEO for the last 6 months. GFS is like 25 pages of website and 8,700 page product catalog, right? So they're more of catalog than they are website, where most marketing websites are more marketing than product, right? So how does being an e-commerce site mechanically and technically differ from just a traditional WordPress marketing blog post site, right? And go ahead and expound on whatever you want to talk about, all the different things about setting up, the SEO and the CRO and dealing with all of that when it comes to a true e-commerce / website combination.
Yeah, I think it makes it a little bit more straightforward for those business operators to be able to execute on this strategy, because there's sort of a forcing function with having to have the products in the site in order to sell them. So you're already doing something fundamentally that we really urge and encourage businesses to do, which is get your content out there and give yourself a framework. And one of the things that I think is so powerful for businesses, and we're talking about the different audiences, content versus messaging, it's like one thing that you can do is take each of the products and build a glossary of terms that are useful related to each of those products. A lot of people actually don't know what all the words mean when you're describing the attributes of your products. They might know some of them, but they don't know all of them. And if you make it easy and you make it something, that messaging wise helps them to learn depending on where they are in the funnel, but then also serves as content for the search engines, you're sort of hitting two birds with one stone. And that's what we
Right.
really want you to be thinking about. Another example would be maybe your scenario would benefit from a product configurator. If so, how could you index the configurations in a way that you're including some meta information so that search engines pick up on, like, this is a good configuration for this scenario, and come up with different tags and keyword phrases that describe these configurations and why they're good for those scenarios, and maybe some kind of visualization. And now all of a sudden you've taken this really, I guess, hard for search engines to index capability of a product configurator, and you've sort of permutated outputs from it and then turned that into content that can be crawled. And then also still worked on your messaging to show people, like, hey, we have this awesome configurator. You can sort of learn about the options in this space and how to configure things for your scenario and visually see what's optimal for your situation. And those are just a few examples. We have clients that will do some really creative things. And one of the things that I like to hold on to as a principle is that typically the difference between being the absolute best and being sort of in the middle of the pack is somewhere between 5 to 15, maybe 20% additional effort. So you can get 10x the results for somewhere between 5 to 20% additional effort. Can you believe that?
Yeah,
I mean, that is
I agree.
insane, but that's how it works. And that's mechanically what we see. We get to see behind the curtain of the most successful e-commerce businesses, and it's not a lot of edge there that they bring. And so that's one of the most exciting things that I would say is that you're sort of competing against other businesses and other people. And because of that, the default setting is that they are going to sort of like achieve success and go to some form of like complacency. And so you can benefit from that by providing more value in the market, both to the audience of the crawlers and then the audience that is the buyer and someone who's learning about the space. So those are some examples. I mean, obviously, just within the products themselves, there's so many things you can do. You can create beautiful content that you then transcribe in video format, talking about the products and explaining details, having maybe engineers or folks that are building the products talk about what's different about them and why they're valuable, maybe the materials that are used, the process for installing and setting this complex device up. I mean, the list goes on. And then you can transcribe that so it can hit both audiences. So that's kind of the key takeaway for me, Ron, is really helping people understand that we want to hit both audiences at the same time, and do it in a way that is sort of syndicating your effort across multiple different sort of overlapping Venn diagrams, if you will, circular areas of spheres of influence, if you will. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I love all the different examples you gave. The only one that I would add that I love is I love FAQs, right? Because
yeah, those are
FAQs can be
great.
put in an
Yep.
accordion, they can be really concise, they can be
Mhm.
consolidated, but the crawlers auto expand that and read all that. And then you can take those FAQs and port them to the FAQ schema, which gives you another opportunity to show up. So my parting thought here is I love to think about SEO. Chris just kind of explained it as the extra 20% effort. I like to talk about it as the zombie effect, right? If the zombie apocalypse came and it was you and all of your competitors in a big arena and they released the zombies, who dies? The slowest. So you don't have to be perfect at SEO. I like to think about it that way, right? There's probably 200 things that I could do, and I could spend $1 million a year of your budget to help you with SEO, or I could spend $500 a month, right? What is the secret sauce and how much money do I need to spend to help you beat your competitors? I just can't be the slowest person in the arena. I just have to be faster than the slowest person because they're the ones that get caught by the zombies, right? And that's exactly how SEO is. So we don't have to start with $1 million budget. We can start small. You look at the competitors, you do an analysis, and you start doing work, and you do a little bit more than they're doing. And then as soon as you surpass them and they realize what you're doing and try to catch up, you're already working on the next couple things to stay ahead. And that's the secret of SEO. So you're never going to overdo what you need to do. You just say, if they're doing 5 things in the analysis and there's 25 things we can do, when we put this list together and your competitors are doing 5, we're going to go out and do 8, because then that 8 will surpass what they're doing. So when they try to start catching up, we're already going to be working on items 9, 10, 11, and 12, and we'll just stay ahead the whole time, right? So that's kind of my parting thought. If you want to talk about some SEO or CRO for your site or your e-commerce site, please check us out, clarity-ventures.com. Smash the like button. Chris, I'll let you close us out.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching this one, and bye for now.
Bye for now.